My name is Cadell Anderson. I'm 74 years old, and once I was a United States Marine. They say time heals everything, but some wounds time doesn't touch. I've fought wars in places people can't even pronounce. I've seen men turn into ghosts before my eyes, and I've buried brothers whose names the world forgot. But the deepest scar I carry isn't from bullets or shrapnel, it's from family. You see, I had one son. His name was Harry. I raised him on discipline and love, the only two things a Marine ever truly owns. His mother died when he was 12. From that day on, it was just me and him. I'd come home from base, boots covered in mud, and he'd run into my arms shouting, "My hero's home!" That boy, he was my world. Every medal I earned for him. Every mission I survived thinking of his face. But war, it changes a man. After 30 years in the Corps, you forget how to live like a civilian. You see threats in shadows, and peace feels like an ambush waiting to happen. When I finally retired, Harry had grown into a man. Smart, charming, ambitious, a little too ambitious. He met a woman named Lisa. Pretty face, sharp tongue. I could see it in her eyes. She didn't love him. She loved what he could have. I tried to warn him, but sons rarely listen to old men with tired voices, so I stayed silent and watched as she pulled him away from me, away from everything good in him. Then came that day, the day my own son took everything I had. My house, my savings, my honor, all signed away under my own name, forged by the man I once held as a baby. When I confronted him, he smiled. "Dad," he said, "you've lived your life. Let me handle things now." And I just stood there, because in that moment the Marine in me died, and the father was too broken to fight. He dropped me at the airport, said I needed a break, some fresh air. He handed me $50 and a one-way ticket to nowhere. As I stood there, watching them drive away laughing, I realized something. The war was never over. It had just come home. But a Marine never quits. He just waits, plans, and strikes when the time is right. They thought they left an old man behind. What they didn't know was that they'd just reactivated a Marine. When they left me at that airport, I didn't cry. Marines don't cry. I just stood there, watching that car fade into the distance until it was nothing but a blur of red taillights and regret. Then I walked. No destination, no plan, just my thoughts and my pride, both bleeding quietly inside me.
That night, I found a cheap motel near the highway. Smelled like cigarettes and broken dreams. I lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling fan turning slow, and I thought of every mission I'd ever survived. Afghanistan, Iraq, Beirut. Every time, they said I was lucky to make it out alive. But this felt like dying while still breathing. Soft emotional piano in the background. For weeks, I disappeared. Slept on benches, ate from vending machines, until one morning, something clicked inside me. The Marine in me woke up again, and he was angry. Not for revenge, but for justice. You see, in the Corps, they teach us one thing: never engage until you've done your reconnaissance. So that's what I did. Recon. I started visiting people who owed me favors, old brothers in arms who still wore their loyalty like dog tags. A buddy from Intel helped me trace every bank transfer. Another got me copies of the property deeds. Everything Harry and Lisa stole had my name on it once. They thought I'd die quietly. They forgot. Marines don't go quiet. We go strategic. Music builds slightly. Soft drum beat, tension rising. Months passed. I rented a small apartment in the edge of town. Nothing fancy. One chair, one table, one purpose. Every wall covered with maps, documents, photos. My son's face. In the middle. I didn't hate him. I hated what greed had turned him into. But I'd been in psychological warfare before. I knew how to turn soldiers who'd lost their way back home. Music softens, hopeful undercurrent. So I made a plan, a slow, patient mission, not of bullets, but of truth. First, I sent an anonymous tip to the authorities. Quiet, simple, undeniable. Then, I started writing to Harry. Old letters, written like a father's goodbye. I told him stories of when he was little, how he once tried to salute me with his toy gun, how he said, "I'll be a Marine like you, Dad." I wanted to remind him who he was. Not the thief he'd become, but the boy I raised. Pause. Soft emotional tone. Weeks later, the storm hit. Cops at his door, lawyers calling, bank accounts frozen. Lisa panicked, tried to flee. My son stayed. For the first time, he faced what he'd done. Music rises, slow drums, emotional tension. I watched from across the street that day. The same house that once held our family photos, now surrounded by flashing blue lights. My son stood on the porch, shoulders shaking, head down. I wanted to run to him, to hold him, to tell him everything would be okay. But this was a lesson the world had to teach him, not me. Soft ambient wind, transition tone. That night, I sat by the window of my small apartment, the rain tapping like Morse code on the glass. I didn't feel victory. I didn't feel triumph. I just felt tired. But sometimes Tired is enough. It means the battle's almost over. Music fades slightly, quiet and reflective. Little did I know, the hardest part was yet to come.
The next morning, I woke up to the sound of knocking. 3 knocks. Slow. Hesitant. For a second, I thought it was a dream. Nobody came looking for me anymore. But when I opened that old wooden door, it wasn't the mailman. It was him. My son. Harry. He looked older. Tired. The arrogance in his eyes was gone, replaced by something I hadn't seen in years.